A good design lets your imagination run wild, and the artist Neco allows us that experience through his characters. In this video, we're gonna look at one of his creations in action figure form and explore what this character is all about based on its overall design and aesthetic. Lanze Reiter is from a series of illustrations called FALSLANDER and was created by the artist Neco. Just like the other figures in this line, there's not much information about her, and there's no media, manga, or story available. We are left with our imagination as to what this character's story is, what's their personality, how they fight, and what sort of environment they live in. Neco has given us clues through subtle details on the design, which we'll see throughout this review. Let's start with the unboxing. Inside the box is a cardboard with a solid gray color, and taped behind is an art card for Lanze Reiter. There's an instruction manual for swapping out parts and accessories. One side is in Japanese and the other side is in English. We also get the usual Figma zip bag and parts for the Figma stand and alternate hands. At first look, the figure looks great with clean lines and paint, and it smells like fresh plastic. The face looks clean and nicely done. Lanze Reiter has a black uniform akin to a plug suit, with straps and mechanical parts at the back and on her sides. She gives off a cyberpunk and techwear vibe. In contrast to this futuristic suit, Lanze Reiter has medieval knight armor on her head, arms, and legs. She has pink eyes, and a tattoo sits just below her left eye. Her hair is short with a pink gradient that goes darker at the tips. Below the mechanical armor on her back is a tail, a design aspect that can also be seen on other FALSLANDER characters except Ronin. Tiny yellow and white details can be seen on the suit with the number 4 printed on the left side of her chest. I was expecting the buckles and straps to be a bit more sharp, but it seems the paint apps have somewhat obscured them. The armor parts on the arms and legs have good sculpt and detail with a dark silver paint scheme. Neco did his research as parts of the armor are actually identifiable. For the arms, you can see the coulter, the vambrace, and the gauntlets. There's a chainmail effect, but the details are not as crisp. You can also identify parts on the leg armor such as the cuisse, pollane, and the greaves. The back of her shoes has a bit of armor too. These combined elements enhance what may seem to be a simple design at first glance. The contrast in texture and paint finish gives it a more balanced look, adding focal interest but not too busy for the eyes. As usual with Figma, there are paint bleeds and imperfections on the details, although these are barely noticeable from 30 centimeters away. There are mold lines, but most of them are hidden from the front. Standing side by side with other FALSLANDER characters, the similarities hint to a strong connection to each other. The aesthetic is similar but also has noticeable differences, such as the armor and weapons. The hair, eyes, and suit numbers sort of tell us that they might be sharing the same DNA. But are they fighting together in a single team, or are they from different factions? Overall, I love the concept for these characters and how they blur the lines between the past and the future. Seeing these three together makes me excited for Figma Samurai. Lanze Reiter's articulation is what you'd expect from the usual Figma. The head has full rotation and swivels side to side. The hair part is soft, so there's no need to worry when turning the head. She can look down this much and look up this much. The shoulder armor has a ball joint. arms can go all the way up to make a T-pose, and shoulders have full rotation. There's no butterfly joint but has enough range of movement. Her upper arm has full rotation, and the elbow armor has a bit of movement. Her forearm can fully rotate, and her gauntlets have full rotation as well, so the hand rotation is not hindered. Hands can swivel on a hinge joint. Her arms can bend more than 90 degrees, and this is how it looks like at the back. The tail on her back is on a ball hinge, so it can move in different directions. Her torso has an acceptable side-to-side bend and can rotate on the lower and upper parts. Lanze Reiter can bend forward considerably well and bend back this much. The ab crunch looks like this at the front, but be aware that joints and gaps will be visible for extreme poses, especially at the back where the joints will be visible. There's good movement on the hips, and you can pull it down to allow sitting positions and have better articulation on the legs. With this, the legs can move forward and back this much, which is great, and side to side this much. There's rotation on the hip joint, and the thighs can rotate as well on both the armored and unarmored legs. Legs bend more than 90 degrees on a single joint, and the knee armor moves with the knees when you bend it, which is a nice feature. There's also a bit of rotation on the legs. She has rotation on her high heels but limited on the armor part, and has an ankle bend with more range on the unarmored leg. These allow her feet to pivot but has no toe bend. The level of articulation on this figure allows you to do complex poses, but the extremities is what you'd expect from the usual single joints. The torso bend is good with 2 points of articulation, and the hip joints allow you to show off her curves. I like how the butt is built into the thighs as it maintains a nice shape from the back. Despite having old joints, Lanze Reiter can still do dynamic action poses and can hold her lance pretty well without dropping. She can stand on her own despite having heels, although you'll need to use the stand for more complex poses. Overall, Lanze Reiter looks good when posed together with other figures and has a lot of playability, but at this point, I'm looking forward to seeing Figmas with double-jointed arms and legs. Lanze Reiter comes with 3 faceplates: an emotionless face already connected to the body, a fighting face, and a smiling face. She has 3 hair parts. The first one has the face armor up, the second has the armor down, and the last one has no armor. To change the faceplates and hair, slowly wiggle and pull the hair and face parts off. Then take the extra hair and faceplate you want to use, align the pegs, and plug them in tight. She has a small neck part to replace the armored neck. To use this, you need to pop the head off, take off the armored neck part, and replace it with this piece. Aside from fully opened hands, Lanze Reiter also have weapon-holding hands, relaxed opened hands, another pair of holding hands, and closed fists. She also has extra lower legs to make the figure look more symmetrical. The right armored leg has a removable sheath for her knife. There are 2 knife parts, with one having the full blade while the other is just the handle. The handle goes into the sheath. The knife has a simple design with no shading and comes in one color. To change the leg parts, carefully pop it off from the ball joint and replace it with the leg part that you want. In this case, I'm changing the left leg. Next, take off the foot from the unarmored left leg, remove the peg at the bottom of the armored one, and replace it with the foot. The lance comes in 2 parts. The peg on the handle has a semicircle shape and you can simply plug it in this way. Make sure to push it in until you hear a click. The lance is nicely detailed with only 2 colors, and it has what seems to be brake levers under the vamp plate. The lance, similar to the armor, has a medieval design. From left to right, we can see the shoe, which is the pointed end of the handle or stock. The stock is usually covered with leather for better grip. The vamp plate stabilizes and protects the hand, and the point is the sharp end for attacks. As for the lever, I'm thinking it's for absorbing damage, or it can be a sort of trigger to have the point shoot off. What do you guys think this lever is for? Let me know in the comments down below. Lastly, we have parts for the Figma stand which can be easily assembled. The amount of accessories are okay for me. Figma usually comes with just 2 extra faceplates, and the fighting and smiling faces are enough. The extra hands are pretty standard, but after playing with it for a while, I find that there's not much use for the extra holding hands. The accessories allow you to display Lanze Reiter in 3 modes. First is fully armored with all the gear and faceplate on. I like how you can cover her face to add a bit of mystery to the character. This feature is something she shares with her sisters. Next is partially armored with her face shown. This is a nice setup as you can feature the armor but also show her facial expression. Lastly, you can pose Lanze Reiter with her armor off, or at least most of it. This in turn allows you to do more laid-back poses and create casual scenarios. I think having various modes is a cool feature that lets you customize how you want to pose and display Lanze Reiter, and customizability is always a plus. As for the weapons, she only has her lance and a knife, but it would be cool if she had a sword she can use. Luckily, her hands can hold weapons from other Figma, and in this case, I'm using the sword from the Figma Bloodborne Weapons Pack. So overall, you'll get a good amount of accessories that maximize playability and allows you to customize. Lanze Reiter stands at 14.5 centimeters, which would make her around 5 foot 8 inches tall in real life. Here's how she looks with Figma Ronin and Hemet Nettle. All 3 of them came from the FALSLANDER line. Here's how she stands with Sentinel Spider-Man Noir and Revoltech Agent Venom. Here's how she looks side by side with Mafex Ben Reilly and SH Figuarts Guts in Berserker armor. Lastly, here's Blade Master Weng by Furay Planet and Bunny Girl Eileen from Snail Shell. As you can see, Lanze Reiter looks okay standing side by side with other figures from different lines and teams. She'll look particularly well with both fantasy-themed figures and futuristic ones. This figure was originally released 3 years ago, but it still matches the level of detail of more recent figures. The joints and articulation are outdated though, but I believe the design and overall aesthetic makes up for it. The strong fantasy and sci-fi vibes make it easy to pose with other figures from different lines. What makes this figure great is that the parts and accessories allow you to customize and somewhat make it your own. You can let your imagination run wild and tell her story yourself. I'd love to imagine Lanze Reiter as a sort of lawful force in a future dystopian world. Needless to say, I'm passionate about this line and I highly recommend it. If you like mysterious characters, I'm sure you'd enjoy these too. You can check my reviews of the other FALSLANDER Figma on the link on the description down below. Be sure to like and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't subscribed, please do, as that would help me a lot in growing my channel. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Al and I'll see you on the next one.